evening and welcome to the evening news for today, Thursday, March 16, 2023. I am Jemima Holmes. Thank you for tuning in. Now let's take a look at some of the lead stories tonight. Local private sector risks being unable to compete in oil and gas sector, says GCCI. Government says contract for new electronic ID card in full conformity with Guyana's laws. 13% hike in prison population credited to increased policing. Chinese national dies after speeding minibus crashes into fence at TIMEHRI. Duo on 15,000 bail each for assaulting Port Wellington teacher. And Norton defends WPA'S racist remarks as more condemnation pours in. Now for the news in detail. The continued bureaucracy at commercial banks in making access to financing easily available is putting local businesses at risk of becoming unable to compete in Guyana's oil and gas sector, as well as losing out on government projects. Vanu Manichan reports.
In keeping with its commitment to push for greater access to financing for the business community, the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry is calling on the local banks to outline the hindrances, whether legislative, economic, social, or environmental, that are restricting better access to finance for the local private sector. According to the GCCI on Thursday, despite charges from the highest level of government coupled with concerns from the private sector, the banks have not been forthcoming with the information that could mitigate the challenges facing access to finance. This has led the private sector to believe that the issues may be internal dividends at the banking level as opposed to a national legislative or policy concern. To this end, GCCI President Timothy Tucker underscored the importance of having access to multiple instruments of borrowing.
We believe that access to finance is the single most important thing to achieve for the private sector achieving their place as the engine of growth for Guyana. None of the bankers associations, none of the banking institutions has so far presented any legislation or anything that needs to change in order to achieve contract borrowing, invoice factoring, lending on movable assets, receivable lending. So legislatively, they have not identified what they said was prohibiting them from lending, from doing these additional sources of lending, these new instruments of borrowing for the private sector.
Consequently, it was noted that the local private sector risks becoming unable to compete with regional and international counterparts in the oil and gas sector. Tucker added too that it is also hindering opportunities in the public sector.
It's leaving the private sector and many members of the private sector unable to take their receivables owed on projects that they're doing, whether it is in the oil and gas industry, whether it's government. Government is spending an extreme amount of money, and government has a process in which they pay. And you're not seeing that being given priority, given the areas moved so that the private sector can borrow to fund and execute those projects in a timely manner with good access to finance.
According to the GCCI president, these concerns by the private sector have been raised with the local banks as well as the Guyana Association of Bankers, Inc., but nothing has been done to remedy the situation. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manichan.
The Guyana government is defending the U.S. $35.4 million contract that it signed with German-based company Veridos Identity Solutions last week for the implementation of the National Electronic Identification Card, insisting that it was done in accordance with local laws. Vanu Manichan joins us again with the details.
With the rollout of the single electronic identification system in Guyana, the new electronic ID card will be issued to Guyanese residents for the conduct of a wide array of transactions, as well as to monitor the issuance of work permits in the country. However, the Guyana Human Rights Association has since criticized the project, calling for it to be paused and submitted to the Parliament, citing the absence of public consultation and sole sourcing of the project. However, in response on Wednesday, the Finance Ministry said the GHRA's statements have no basis. It contended, quote, contrary to the false assertion made by the GHRA, the contract in question was awarded in full conformity with the laws of Guyana, including the procurement laws, end quote. Back in October 2021, Guyana had reached out to the United Arab Emirates government for assistance in introducing the electronic ID card, and 2 international companies were shortlisted. Veridos, a partially owned German government company and global leading provider of integrated identity solutions, was subsequently selected after making a presentation to the Guyana government. In fact, the Finance Ministry too reaffirmed that Veridos is a highly regarded supplier of items of this nature internationally. It said, quote, the government of Guyana maintains that the contract with Veridos was lawfully executed with an internationally reputable group and is intended to deliver a product that will transform citizen experience in Guyana with the introduction of the Integrated Electronic National Identification Card. Once introduced, the card will enable citizens to interact with all government agencies and many private sector entities using this single, unique and secure identifier, and will vastly improve the efficiency of service delivery to citizens, end quote. At last Friday's virtual contract signing, President Dr. Irfan Ali said the rollout of this resident electronic ID card, which has a 12-month implementation period, will promote the ease of doing business and personal transaction in Guyana with strict privacy features. Meanwhile, among the internationally recognized features of the new resident card is its ISO certification, as well as its acceptance by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, for international travel. Reporting for the Evening News, Vanu Manakchand.
Rupasina Ryan joins us now to report that the inmate population in Guyana's prisons has grown by 13% for the last year, and this increase is credited to increased policing efforts. Here are the details.
The annual Senior Officers Conference of the Guyana Prison Service commenced on Thursday in an effort to promote better operations, create synergies at the managerial level, learn from past challenges, and build coherent strategies for 2023. Acting Director of Prisons Niklon Elliott shared that at the end of 2022, inmate population stood at 2,144.
I must say that this increase in population would have been attributed to the Guyana Police Force and the efforts in fighting crime. In the year 2023, the Prison Directorate will seek to strengthen interagency collaboration with all levels of partnership, aimed at creating and promoting prisoners' rehabilitation and integration, thus reducing the likelihood of ex-offenders returning to the life of crime and thus eliminating the issue of stigma and discrimination.
Home Affairs Minister Roxanne re-emphasized that old crimes are being replaced by a new wave, referring to the issue of transnational crime which the system is now faced with.
In all of this, we have challenges of new forms of crime. New challenges, the police have to deal with issues of transnational organized crime. The old crimes we are accustomed to doing, having to deal with the question of men and youth. It's a big challenge.
In 2022, 17 ranks were dismissed from the Guyana Prison Service for non-adherence to prison rules. With a staffing capacity of 601 officers, there is a current complement of 510 personnel, a vacancy for 91 professionals. Rupa Sinarain, The Evening News.
Overcrowding in prisons will soon be eliminated with the completion of several facilities across existing penitentiaries that would accommodate hundreds of inmates. Rupasina Ryan joins us again with the details.
Director of Prisons Nicklon Elliott provided an update on the state of accommodation for prisoners across the penitentiaries. Phase 1 of the Mazaruni prison expansion was completed and will house 220 prisoners. Phase 2 is ongoing and will be completed by the end of the year, housing another 150 inmates. At Luzignan Prison, 3 buildings were completed, housing over 900 prisoners. Another 3 structures will be completed within a few months.
A new facility will be constructed for the female prison at Luzignan, which will see about 80 inmates being occupied there. Construction of the living quarters for staff at Luzignan Prison is ongoing, and on completion, 150 ranks will be accommodated there.
In 2022, some $5.5 billion was set aside for the Guyana Prison Service, which aided in the modernizing of the prison infrastructure and penal legislation, restructuring their operations, enhancing human resources, and strengthening financial management systems. Construction of the prison headquarters and command center is scheduled to be completed this year. Home Affairs Minister Roxanne noted that the prison service is being re-envisioned in a way which is sustainable.
We've moved from the position where we're not spending enormous sums of money and bringing North American styles of lockups here, which under environmental conditions we are discovering can't work and which are not suited for our best conditions. And at the prices which they come, we can never afford it. But we have taken our own resorts at Luzignan in building out the prison complex in a way that is sustainable, matching some of the things we inherited coming in as a government to bring us to an optimal position given the situation to have a better situation.
Rupasina Ryan, The Evening News.
A Chinese national who was standing on private premises is now dead after he was struck down by a speeding minibus whose driver crashed the vehicle into a zinc fence at TIMEHRI. He has been identified as 59-year-old Gao Zhenjun, who was employed by Arbasu Building and Civil Engineering Contracting, which was awarded the contract for the construction of the US $20 million Marriott Courtyard Hotel at TIMEHRI. Police said the minibus driven by 34-year-old East Coast Demerara resident was speeding when at around 19:30 hours. As the driver was navigating the roundabout, he lost control of the vehicle and it crashed into a zinc fence that surrounds the compound earmarked for the hotel. The minibus plowed through the fence and collided with the Chinese national who was standing in the compound. The man was picked up in an unconscious condition and escorted to the Diamond Diagnostic Center, East Bank Demerara, where he was pronounced dead on arrival. The driver is in custody as investigations continue. Coming up, Norton says right to free speech must be respected as he defends WPA'S racist, divisive remarks as PM flags lack of condemnation. Do stay with us. More news ahead.
Premier insurance coverage for less. Stay safe. For bid, performance, retention, advanced mobilisation or customs bonds, bond with us. Fuel your success. Call 223-0840 or visit premierinsurance.gy. Premier Insurance. Premier insurance coverage.
Virtual Keno. It's a game of numbers. Choose your lucky numbers and win up to 10,000 times your stake. Visit www.superbet.gy to place your bets. Must be 18 years and older. Terms and conditions apply. Play responsibly. Superbet, your best bet.
Did you know that when you leave your property unoccupied and unmanaged, it deteriorates much faster than you can imagine? Then before you know it, much of your hard-earned investment is wasted. At Hand in Hand Trust Corporation, property management is our business. Whether you travel for long periods, live overseas, or have several properties that require managing, let us at Hand in Hand Trust Corporation take care of this for you. Your property is safe with us. Hand in Hand Trust Corporation Incorporated, a member of the Hand in Hand Group of Companies.
Welcome back. You're watching the Evening News. Home Affairs Minister Roxanne has contended that the law will take its course if it is determined that the statements made by representatives of the Working People's Alliance are found to be seditious. WPA'S Tacoma Ogunsei called for certain members' services to use their guns against the government. Ben is the latest in a long list of civil society representatives, including members of the political opposition, who have strongly condemned the attempts by the WPA to preach race hate and divisiveness. Here's what the Home Affairs Minister had to say.
There were remarks made at public meetings by Mr. Tacoma Ogunsei and Mr. David Hines, who, as I said, appear to be calling out persons or units of the discipline services to take particular divisive actions or resorts which are harmful to the country. And these calling out which they have made, these insinuations, these suggestions, these open calls to misadventure and distress, I want to condemn them in the strongest terms. I'm condemning them in the strongest terms. I'm saying while we are having legal reviews of them, they appear to me to be frankly seditious. And if they're found to be seditious, the laws will take its course. The laws will take its course. We cannot have persons who would want to call out in a democratic environment where there's a parliament, where there are courts, there are resorts in the parliament, there are resorts in the legal system. If any person or any organization feels aggrieved rationally with perceptions in relation to governance and what is the makeup of things, how things are being worked at, there is representation in the parliament, and there is also the courts, the legal system. And we should not allow persons to vicariously, in a crowded hall of people, shout fire or call one set of people to attack another set of people, or to suggest that persons who have arms in a formal discipline service area to turn those perhaps against the state or against their fellow Guyanese. I want to condemn it and decry it in the strongest possible terms.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Aubrey Norton, during a press conference today, defended the remarks emanating from the WPA camp, noting that free speech must be respected, even as he belittled the matter simply as just poor choice of words. Norton has since faced criticisms for not speaking out against the hate speech during the Buxton meeting in which he participated. Here's what he had to say on the issue.
As party leader, I was invited to speak at the WPA public meeting held on Thursday night, March at Buxton Line Top. The PPP seems bent on being dictatorial. The opposition believes that Mr. Tacoma Ogunsei's right to free speech must be respected, even though we believe that his language could have been better chosen. The choice of his language is his preserve. Any attempt to use the law against Mr. Ogunsei will further erode the guardrails of democracy. Mr. Ogunsei accurately described the situation in Ghana, and probably out of frustration, he went a little too far. The government seems hell-bent on using the opportunity to increase their repression rather than to recognize the problems in the society and seek to solve them. We believe that good sense should prevail and the government should grasp the opportunity to address the problems raised by Mr. Agunse. The government buries its head in the sand to its own detriment. Attacking Mr. Agunse in the opposition will not solve the problem.
Prime Minister Mark Phillips last evening issued a statement on the issue in which he expressed concern at the lack of condemnation over the racist remarks made by the WPA representatives. He said the deafening silence of the organizations such as the Guyana Human Rights Association, the International Decade for People of African Descent Assembly Guyana, and the recently launched Institute for Action Against Discrimination is particularly noteworthy in this instance. Moreover, the Prime Minister said not only were these statements inflammatory, but they were also made in complete contrast to the principles of what the WPA represented under Walter Rodney. Andrew Carmichael now reports that 2 persons have been released on bail today for the alleged assault of a teacher attached to the Fort Wellington Secondary School, West Coast Berbice. The Regional Democratic Council has since discussed the issue and decided that more needs to be done to protect teachers. Here is this story.
Trey McPherson and Deshaun Daniels today were slapped with charges for assault causing actual bodily harm. Additionally, McPherson was charged for damage to property. The 2 accused appeared at the Fort Wellington Magistrates Court before Magistrate PTU, where they pleaded not guilty. They were placed on $15,000 bail each and were also ordered to stay 50 feet away from the victim. Both matters have been adjourned to March 30th. It was reported that the teacher, Marlon Daniels, had sent a student to the head teacher's office for disrespectful behavior. However, the student would have left the school after hurling threatening language towards the educators. Sometime later, while Daniels was at a nearby printery, the student reportedly returned with a relative. Together with other students, they physically assaulted the teacher. Teachers at the Fort Wellington Secondary School have since took to the streets to protest, calling for violence against educators to end. When the Regional Democratic Council of Region 5 met on Thursday, Councillor Emerson Benjamin raised the issue and called for systems to be put in place to ensure teachers' safety. Benjamin says there are other schools in the region where the actions of some students are worrying.
Let me start from that then. Nova School again. This particular student is just a forced farm student that's been suspended, not to exaggerate, but over 15 times. And recently, pull a scissors for the teacher. Now we have Fort Wellington Secondary School. What took place there? And this is sad to say that the secondary officer, I won't mention the name, but we all know our secondary officer for the region. Instead of the secondary officer, and when I engage with the teachers, when I engage with the student, and bombard the teachers while they were protesting for their rights. This officer didn't even engage the teachers. All he did, or all he said, their pay should be cut. They go last a day's pay. But we before, and I'm speaking on behalf of the teacher, the last a day pay or month pay instead of last a teacher. Because I'm saying to you guys that if we don't put system in place, is either a student will get trapped, a teacher will get trapped, or something drastic will happen which we don't want to happen.
Benjamin is suggesting that the police be involved in random searches on students' personal belongings. He says if the proper systems are not in place, teachers will not have the interests of students at heart.
The said head teacher would have made a report before the whole incident happened to the police station. I know what the police did. Sadly, we have a police here to take this in. You know what the police did? They laugh at the teacher. Yeah, laugh at the teacher.
Meanwhile, Regional Vice Chairman Ryan Peters referred to the situation as a sad state of affairs, noting that the regional administration will not tolerate violence being meted out to teachers.
Importantly, Mr. Chairman, these students came from families. Mr. Chairman, importantly, they came from families. They came from villages. They came from society. They are part of our society. Our kids are learning from us. They're observing what is happening in our society, what is happening around them. Mr. Chairman, we have to lead by example as adults and responsible people.
An international logistics company has commenced operations in Guyana and already has planned investments of up to US $7 million. Find out more in this Tasia Dickinson report.
CS World Cargo, a supply chain and logistics company, officially launched its presence in the Guyanese market on Tuesday evening. Delivering the feature remarks on behalf of His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali at the launching ceremony, Minister of Public Works, Juan Edgil, emphasized how important business ventures of this nature have become.
We have to build out the physical infrastructure to facilitate that. But we also have to be able to build out the technological and other infrastructure to support that. And supply chain management and logistics are very, very, very important. You will need a company like CS World to ensure that your goods are adequately packaged, satisfying both sanitary and phytosanitary conditions, created on time at the airport, and when landed at various destinations to be connected to the next destination, so that we can be able to be a global player in trade and industry and commerce. We can't do it without logistics and supply chain management. And that is the importance of companies like this.
Guyana is set to become a hub of connectivity between the Caribbean and South America due to its ideal positioning in both regions. Meanwhile, Minister Edgil noted that the company's establishment is set to create scores of jobs for Guyanese.
What people need is not charity. What people need is opportunities. Once you get charity, it's a good thing. Somebody's benevolent, somebody's giving, but charity always carries with it a limitation. When opportunities are created, the sky is the limit. And that is why our government, in as much as we are expending significant amounts of monies in our social services, it's not just about sharing out money and everybody say, I got a raise. That's charity. You must also look and see the opportunities that exist. And from where I sit and where I stand, every day I'm seeing opportunities.
CS World Cargo Logistics 2000 Limited is a supply chain and logistics company with over 35 years of experience in the industry. The multinational company has offices in the USA, UK, and Hong Kong, and has already invested over US $1 million into Guyana's economy, with a plan to invest an additional US $5 to $7 million in various sectors. Within 5 years, the company is looking to employ between 25 to 50 persons as part of its agenda for continuous expansion, as well as open regional offices in Rosignol and Perica. Tasia Dickinson for the Evening News.
The importance of Caribbean countries investing in renewable energy and increasing their climate resilience was on Tuesday emphasized by the World Bank. However, President Dr. Irfan Ali has since posited that there is not enough funding available for countries like Guyana to make the necessary investments in this direction. Gerald Bryan has the details.
On Tuesday, the World Bank held a seminar that focused on the world economic prospects of Caribbean countries, of which Guyana is one. During the session, World Bank Country Director for the Caribbean, Lila Barunsiuk, stressed the importance of Caribbean countries focusing on renewable energy.
Switching to renewable energy, we heard about the impact of increased hydrocarbon prices and the need to really invest in the renewable energy which is abundant in the region, and lower the costs and actually increase the affordability both for people and for businesses, so that they can become more competitive. With the current level of energy prices, it's very difficult to compete.
Her advice comes even as Guyana is making a concerted effort to increase its renewable energy output. Efforts are also being made to commission various forms of renewable energy, including the Amila Falls hydropower project and the gas-to-energy project as a transition energy source. Burunsiak also spoke of the importance of building climate resilience. She noted the devastating economic setbacks of natural disasters.
Caribbean countries lose on average every year 6% of their GDP to natural disasters. I don't know if there are economies in the world, no matter how strong they are, that can actually cope with this. This is huge. So doing everything that is possible to strengthen the resilience of the countries to these natural disasters is important.
Guyana's President Dr. Irfan Ali, at various international forums, has argued that the only known available financing to achieve the region's renewable energy target is the Caribbean Development Bank, which has a loan portfolio of US $1.4 billion. But according to President Ali, a minimum of US $11 billion is needed to achieve just the fundamentals of the target. Jarrell Bryan, The Evening News.
And now for a look at the bridge reports.
The Demerara Harbor Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Friday, March 17th at 1 hour for a period of 1.5 hours. Meanwhile, the Berbice River Bridge is scheduled to be closed on Friday, March 17th at 12:50 hours, also for a period of 1.5 hours.
4 Guyanese in West Indies Women's Training Camp and a 23-man Golden Jaguars team for Nations League games. Details of these stories and more in the Sportcast, sponsored by Macorp, coming up on the other side of the break.
Looking to bring your dream home to reality? Or simply taking on a home improvement project? Then National Hardware Limited is where you should start. Let us put that touch to your home. Choose from over 1,000 Berger Paint original hues for any surface. We are known for our trusted brands such as Westinghouse, Phillips, Sadco, Rubbermaid, Pyrex, Gibson Home, and so much more. National Hardware Limited, your do-it-best store. Located in downtown Georgetown and industrial site Rhymeville.
John Lewis Styles has opened a new department, now offering home goods. Here you can find quality sheets and towels, pillows, blankets, and even bath mats and shower curtains. Organize your laundry with clothes baskets, fabric steamers, irons, and ironing boards. For the kitchen we have small appliances, towels and mittens, pot sets and dinner sets too. Decorate the house with mirrors, picture frames, floating shelves, and decorative pillows. All these and more on Waterloo Street. It's fashion for the home. John Lewis Styles. Simply different.
Poultry farmers, save money by cutting down the time it takes to pluck your chickens with the plucking machine from Sylvie's. Now available at affordable prices in 3 sizes: 500, 550 and 600 mm, 110 220 volts, 60 cycles, 1450 RPM. Replacement motors and the plucking fingers are also readily available right now at Sylvie's Variety Store, High and Hatfield Streets, Georgetown.